sickness? Well, I define sickness as a misalignment of your body, mind, and soul. So let me go dig a little deeper and explain this. We are more than what we could physically see. Dejan and I are looking at each other. We see a physical demonstration of who we are. That's tangible, and we're all energy. Everything is energy. We're just a very dense demonstration of energy. Emotions carry energy. I call them balls of energy. And then we go to our thoughts. That's energy because those are wavelengths, but also our connectedness to our higher self, to our innate wisdom, to our connectedness to ourself sometimes. Well, that is also energy. And if there's a disconnect between being connected to the higher aspects of yourself or being connected to the flow of your life, your soul, basically, this is where a lot of problems occur.
Welcome to another episode of Life Coach Code. Today I have something extraordinary for you and something that you would not like to miss. Today on this podcast, I have a special guest, a person, a coach that I love a lot, and that she's second time on this podcast. In fact, Dr. Dolores Fazzino. I'm going to introduce her again. I'm introducing her every podcast, but she deserves the recognition. So Dr. Dolores Fazzino is a seasoned nurse practitioner, medical intuitive, and renewed author with over 40 years of healthcare experience. Her transformative journey began when she witnessed her father's miraculous healing, inspiring her to help others heal in ways they never thought possible. Dr. Dolores, known as the Energy Whisperer, integrates spirituality into wellness, guiding clients to resolve energetic imbalances with grace and ease. She is the author of 5 books, including an Amazon International bestseller, and hosts the Dr. Dolores Show, available on TV, radio, and podcasts across 300 global platforms. We will talk about her and her talk on the Superhuman Summit about healing in ways you never thought possible. Dr. Dolores Fazzino, it's always an honor. Welcome.
Thank you, Dejan. It's a pleasure to be here and really looking forward to being part of the summit in November.
Thank you so much. It's an honor, as I said, and it's always, I'm excited when I talk to you because I know the discussion is going to go so deep. So I just want to jump right into it and ask you the first question. Can anything be healed?
I believe anything can be healed. Okay. I believe that we as human beings are wired to heal. It's what has happened over time and space and eons and paradigms is that innate power has been either taken away from us or we've given it away or we just don't believe it or trust it.
Over 25 experts will work with you to teach you how to shape reality at your will. Become financially abundant. Align with your higher self. Activate the supercomputer in your head. Heal on every level. Unleash the hidden reservoirs of energy, strength, and vitality. Improve all your relationships. Learn to listen to your inner GPS that knows the past, present, and future. Become the ultimate creator of your life. Our promise to you is that the information inside the summit you cannot find anywhere else. This is not an event. It's a start of a journey. The fate of humanity is in your hands. Are you ready to make the most important choice of your life? And every life that will come from your DNA? What path will you take?
I think that what we're witnessing now in humanity's evolution is the return to this as we progress, into the future. People taking their power back, people starting to trust their intuition and their inner guidance, and looking inside for their answers instead of being distracted and pulled outside of themselves to think that this is the next best and greatest thing, and this is what I need to do. I think all of that is important, but there's a part of discernment that needs to be added to the mix, so to say, because I think a lot of people readily give their power away to something outside of themselves, thinking that it's going to solve their problems and create solutions for them. And it might, and you might get success or, the solution, but it's a temporary fix. It's not a long lasting, progressive and continuous process.
So interesting that you said that our bodies are designed to heal, because when you cut your hand, for example, you don't force your hand to heal. Your body naturally has a mechanism that heals your hand and other things. So this being said, if our bodies are designed to heal, then what is sickness?
What is sickness? Well, I define sickness as a misalignment of your body, mind, and soul. So let me go dig a little deeper and explain this. Many times, we are more than what we could physically see. We look, Dejan and I are looking at each other, we see a physical demonstration of who we are. And that's tangible, and we're all energy. Everything is energy. We're just a very dense demonstration of energy. So, when we go to our emotions, which are energy, okay, emotions carry energy. I call them balls of energy. And then we go to our thoughts. That's energy, because those are wavelengths. So our emotions, those are wavelengths, but also our connectedness to our higher self, to our innate wisdom, to our connectedness to ourself sometimes. Well, that is also energy. And if there's a disconnect between being connected to the higher aspects of yourself or being connected to the flow of your life, your soul, basically, this is where a lot of problems occur. So you're looking at your beliefs, your thoughts, what you say to yourself in your head. And believe me, we are not very kind people to ourselves. We say some pretty gnarly things to ourselves about ourselves. Okay. That's all energy. We also look, when we don't express our emotions, or we ignore them or partially experience them, or even put them on a shelf for later to deal with, and we never get back to them. Whether or not we forgive ourselves or hold grudges, all that comes into play, because that's energy. And, trying to keep all that at bay and keep it together, it's like going to the fair and playing the game whack-a-mole. It's like where the mole comes up and you whack it, and then another mole, and it's just like you're kind of doing this. We are in a reactive state to try to control all of this so we don't experience it. God forbid if we do. It's like the lid of Pandora's box will go flipping open and it'll never close. And that, I'm going to tell you, that's not the truth. That's an illusion. It will close. You need to step into those things to experience that. So when you don't experience your emotions, you're not saying nice things to yourself, and you're not connected to yourself. It's just like you're a hot mess energetically. And what happens is that your energy field can only take so much of that, and it tips over into the physical body. And that's where people start, having health challenges. So, I think another thing that's very interesting too is that how disconnected we are from our physical body. I mean, all this stuff is happening. We're getting the hints and the clues and the red flags that something's off kilter, but we ignore that until it actually comes apparent in our physical body, and it stops us in our tracks. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Definitely, and
Yeah.
I agree with you 100%. I want to lead up with another question. Do you believe that any disease has an energetic component to it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I do.
Any
I,
disease.
I think that, just for an example, okay, say somebody is a diabetic, okay? I mean, that's kind of running rampant right now here in the United States. I don't know what it's like in other parts of the world, but we have a huge obesity crisis, and the whole obesity thing comes with diabetes and stuff like that. A lot of inflammation, a lot of, whatever. So what is interesting is that in Western medicine, we try to treat everybody who has diabetes the same way. And the misnomer and the thing that's really not appropriate is that we need to look at how this person created this for themselves. Okay. We might have 10 different people in the room, and the way they got to this was different than just doing it one way. So to unravel that, you need to look at how the person created that. For one person, maybe they just had a real bad childhood. They're very angry and they internalize their anger. And for them to protect themselves, they would eat, eat because it's physical protection. And then it tipped into diabetes. But that's one aspect. And then maybe somebody else has like a family history of it, which I'm going to do a sidebar here. Just because you have a family history of it doesn't mean it's a death sentence and you're going to get it. It's just in your makeup. It's what you do with the knowledge of that and how the decisions you make for yourself. So, maybe there's unforgiveness and a lot of pent up anger, or maybe this person was abused and this is what caused them to pack on the weight and become a diabetic. Okay. So, you know, yes, genetics plays a part in it, but it's not a death sentence, because why is it some people have it in their background and never develop it in their family history? Okay. So you have to wonder about that. But it's about how people cope with things, or maybe, a person was physically or emotionally abused in their household and they're told they're unworthy and stuff like that. And so that's the program they have running in their head. So they just, don't think highly of themselves, and they just are, your body is crying for help and wanting to be healed, but you're stuffing it with food and you're getting bigger. So it's like there's many different possibilities to get to this. So I think what's really, something that Western medicine needs to look at is individually how that person got there, by looking at what was going on in their lives, their economic, status, their, what emotionally was going on with them, what they say to themselves and their beliefs and their, all those are matrix together that create the outcome. So, I think when healthcare says, oh, you could take this pill and you get better. Well, I don't think that works, because you're not addressing the other issues. It may work temporarily, don't get me wrong, but it's not going to create the lasting health and wellness that people need.
I agree with you completely. However, I would like to challenge you right now. I want to give you a hypothetical scenario.
Sure.
Yeah, and I want you to explain how this might be linked energetically. So let's say a person just randomly goes to a store, gets something to eat, and in this food there is some bacteria and they get sick from this bacteria. How is this, for example, linked energetically? What they lack energetically, that they went to the store, got this meat and got sick?
That's an interesting one, Bijan. I mean, I think it's like you're opening Pandora's box with that, but, who knows what's really going on? I mean, maybe for the person, maybe this is a repeating pattern for them. It's like, I go out to eat, I get sick. You know what I'm saying? Maybe that's something that they're experiencing. So it's just like, what is the energetic thing? So maybe something really happened at a very young level. And maybe it's about them having to look at making better choices as far as what they're going to consume, but also, what is, what they're going to consume, but how they feel about that, and how your body processes that, and the experience around that experience too. Maybe there was something that you got attention or something like that from your parents when you got sick. I don't know. There might be something deeper like that going on too. Who knows? I think a lot of it's very individual because, some people, it seems like, and I think I know where you're going with this. It's like they create things as a repeating pattern type of thing to, learn whatever lesson you need to learn. And then once you learn the lesson, it pretty much, it doesn't happen again. But sometimes it's just to learn the lesson is just like an epiphany and just acknowledging what it is. You don't have to go into all this like deep healing and stuff like that. Sometimes it's an unconscious component, okay, that when you label it, it brings it into consciousness. And once it's in consciousness, it could leave because it's no longer running the show. You know what I'm saying? So, if it's like abandonment issues with parents, it's just like that's enough of a flip of a switch, like turning a light switch on, that it's enough to move it and shift it out of your space. Sometimes it happens that quickly.
Could it be just a random event, or does it always have to be does it always carry this energetic component? Like can it sometimes be just I got unlucky, I just got the meat, and
sometimes it could be that too. I think it's up to the individual and like whatever story they create about it in their mind, because a lot of times we don't know what people think when stuff like that happens. But if there's like an unhealthy pattern that it's just like they say, every time I go out I get sick, it's just like it depends. It's not like a black and white thing. I think there's a lot of variables here, and I think people need to realize it's not a one and done or black and white, this or that. It's this and that and that and that and this and that and whatever. It's like there's so much more going on that people know, that trying to I'm going to say this, and I hope I don't just if we dummy it down to like human stuff, we think it has to be really black and white. No, it's not. Sometimes it's not. And the thing is, and that's okay.
I completely agree with you. And I asked you specifically these questions because in this domain, when people speak about energy healing and these topics, they usually go and they disregard this part of the physical world that we're talking right now.
Yeah.
That yes, there is an energetic component, but there is also the physical component, and they both
they're not separate. Dijon, exactly. You and I both know this. They're not separate. Everything, you know what? People need to realize that things are not in compartments or boxes. And I think in Western medicine, we've been taught that, the nervous system is in one box. The circulatory system is one box. But guess what? The nervous system and the circulatory system, they kind of communicate together. But, like the endocrine system, and that one really cracks me up because they chop the endocrine system into different parts to different specialties. So each specialty gets but it's just like, that's not how it works, because the endocrine system is a homeostatic type of environment where one thing balances out the other. So if one thing's out of kilter, the other hormones try to counterbalance it to make it so everything else might get out of whack too. So if you're just looking at your thyroid being out of whack, well, maybe it's your female hormones or your male hormones, I don't know, or your adrenals. They all play a component, but yet, the kidneys have got the adrenals, the urologists have the male stuff, and then the females have the the female hormones, and the thyroid is kind of stuck up there with the ENT doctor, and the pineal gland is like in the brain, so that's the neurosurgeon. It's just, I find it comical, because the thing is that and they get so focused on their one area, they miss the bigger picture of looking at the whole entire body.
That's so interesting. Are you familiar with Sadhguru?
That name sounds very familiar. Tell me more.
Sadhguru is a mystic. He's pretty famous online, and basically what he says, and I don't know if it's his theory or is just a Vedic philosophy. He says that there is basically what he calls the scalpel, and the modern world is 99% designed by the scalpel. The scalpel is a tool of our mind, and there are 4, I think, tools that we are basically not using. We are using just the scalpel. Why he calls it the scalpel is because our mind is obsessed with trying to find certainty and trying to find what things around it are. So it will take an object and, like a scalpel, dissect it, and then it creates 2 objects, and then evaluates these objects, and then takes the scalpel again, and then there are 4 objects, and then he evaluates these objects, and then there are 8 objects, and that's how we go and compartmentalize, like you say, and put into different boxes something that was whole from the beginning, just because our mind tries to understand it better. Now, okay, this is reasonable. It's one of the tools, but it's not the only tool. And it seems in the modern world, we are using just this tool. We are having trillion disciplines and trillion fields about the human body. One is about the brain, one is about a tiny part of the brain, another part is about a different type of part of the brain, another is about the leg, another is about the nails. And all of these fields, all of these doctors are most of them will say that their field is the most important one. They will say that they know the best.
Well, you know what? You know my background, and you know that I'm an assistant surgeon, so I see this at a real different, at a very similar thing, and I just crack up because it's just like they don't realize that the other parts talk to each other. It's really kind of funny because they're so focused. And you know what? Good for them for being so expert at that area. I would love to see more of an integration of the completeness of the human body and system with the mind, body, and soul, because that, I've been in healthcare for well over 45 years, and I'm happy to say that the last maybe 15 years, I've witnessed a shift where that is starting to come into play. It still has a long way to go, but they're starting to entertain and address that, which is important because, it's just like the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Well, you can't fix this problem by doing the same thing we did before. We need to expand ourselves, expand our awareness, expand our frequency, raise our frequency to a higher vibration to look at this from a different perspective. And so I feel that, we're in a real beautiful time in humanity's evolution where this is starting to happen. We still have a ways to go, but the pivot and the shift is happening with this.
I agree 100%. And it's interesting. That's why I mentioned, because I know you are in this domain and you are familiar with these things. We are always trying to compartmentalize the human being without finding ways to unify it back. That's the whole reason why you take things apart, so you can know how to put them together and understand them better when they are together, so how you can move forward from there and thrive. This is something that we are missing, and I believe that
the other thing too, Dijon, is this, when people take things apart and they put them back together, it really is a bummer when there's extra parts and you don't know where they go.
Right, exactly. Why? Because they didn't use the right tools. They didn't really understand.
Or they forgot how it went. Anyway, yes. I mean, you have to laugh at this stuff because, like I said, it is just like being in the world that I am. I'm at a point in my life, it's just like there's a lot of humor in my world, because when you're able to see the bigger picture of what's kind of coming and what's happening and what's actually what they're doing, it's just like they have no idea. So to me, it's like it's pretty entertaining how they're going about things and wanting to make things happen a certain way. And you know what, I commend them for that, and there's a place at the table for that as well. And we need to expand and look at things from a different perspective.
I know you are in every day you're talking with people who might be skeptics about what you're actually and probably most of them are. So I want to ask you, how do you communicate with them? How do you communicate with clients that might have contradicting beliefs about what you're saying? How do you help them find
Well,
that?
first of all, I observe a lot. Okay. I don't, verbalize, I don't, if people ask me, I will respond. But it's just like, I don't, automatically blurt things out, because the thing is, they're not ready to hear it. And for me, it's self-care. Okay. Because the thing is, that's part of my self-care. Why would I want to set myself up to be, attacked, whatever? So I'm very selective in who I share things with. And surprisingly, more and more people have come up to me individually and asked me questions that are, through all disciplines in the healthcare system. So there's a shift happening. And, I'm a very firm believer that you know what you know, what you know, and you don't know why you know it, but you know it. I know that's a lot of and but it's the truth. It's just like, I don't know where I get this from, but I know it's the absolute truth. So sometimes people just aren't ready to hear that. And there's a saying that comes from the Bible, and I'm not a Bible thumper or anything, that you don't throw your pearls among swine. So the thing is, if a person's not ready to hear, you know what? That's fine. What you could do is sometimes bring it down to their level and have a common, you know, find out where they're at and then somehow thread it in through that door opening. But to sometimes just dump it on people, it's just a huge disservice. And, when they're ready, they're ready. I know, Dejan, you and I've talked about this numerous times. It's like people are either awake, waking up, or they're still asleep. Okay. So the thing is, it's like knowing your audience. Are they still sleeping? If they're still sleeping and they're not even open to anything, you know, you could just hold the space for them and allow them to, explore. For those who are awakening, that's where, that's an area where there's possibilities. And of course, people who are awake, it's like we could have this conversation forever and, we would definitely get a lot more out of it because it's channeled information. Okay. I'm not pulling it, it's like I'm getting downloads and I'm getting information. Just because we don't have the ways to measure it, so it's considered evidence-based, which I absolutely hate that word, that it doesn't exist. You know what? I just kind of have to say, isn't that special? And I just have to walk away because it's like they're not ready to hear this, but we know in fact it's true. Evidence-based doesn't mean anything, because what it is, it's just manipulation of statistics to gain what you want from a situation, bottom line. And we could see that with big pharma. Okay. And, I probably will get censored or whatever, but I don't care because I'm a truth teller. It's just like, why is this? Everybody kowtows evidence-based medicine. Okay. Oh yeah, FDA just approved this new drug. It's supposed to do X, Y, and Z and ABC and, PQM and whatever. And you know what? It got rushed through FDA. Nothing was really done correctly. Somebody probably bought somebody off. And 2 years later, there's a class action lawsuit and it's taken off the market. So is that evidence-based medicine that they practice? I think that's really scary. Don't you?
Definitely.
And I've had dialogues with other physicians, and they tell me that, what you do, Dolores, is not evidence-based. So I share that little blurb with them. It's a showstopper for them because their mouth, they just don't know how to respond. And what I say as an adjunct to it, I said, you know what? If one person has a positive result from what I do for them, that's enough evidence-based for me. And I walk away. You know what? Because these people sound like idiots. They kowtow against this whole illusion of evidence-based. And it's just like, do you think people are stupid and they don't realize what's really going on? Something to think about. I don't know, but
Exactly. There are people who actually try and do research and do honest research and try to prove something scientifically. And also there are, as we know, a lot of evidence-based things that have been manipulated with statistics. So do you believe that most of medicine is manipulated, or do you believe that, like, what do you believe is predominant?
You know what? That's a tough call. That's a tough call, and I'll tell you why. Because unfortunately, in Western medicine, I think there's a lot of abuse of power. Okay, you have big pharma kind of in bed with the AMA and other entities that it's about making lots of money, and they really don't care about the client. I want to take this a step further, is that just with our discussion we had earlier in this web or this podcast, is that remember, everybody's individual. When they try to do research, they're trying to um, treat everybody the same as how they got to this place. And so, yeah, sometimes that might work and sometimes not, but you're missing the component. There's too many variables that need to be controlled in order to have a quote study. So, and you're only taking a small sector of the population. So I find this to be kind of interesting, and I'm just going to, it's not quite a pharmaceutical type thing, but for the longest time, we all know forgiveness is like a magic pill that helps people's health and wellness overall. Would you believe that probably about 10 years ago, somebody did a study, and up until that point, nobody really believed that this was true until that study came out. And I'm thinking to myself, we needed a study to prove that. That is the most asinine thing ever. Now he gets the credit. Oh, yes, forgiveness is a real good way. Well, no shit, Sherlock. We've known that for decades. Do you know what I'm saying? It's just like, so, you're basically saying that before anything's evidence-based, it doesn't really exist. I'm sorry, I'm going to call bullshit on that. Sorry, but yeah, no.
Okay, so you are a medical intuitive. Can you share with us a little bit about what does that title mean, medical intuitive?
That's also another interesting title. Medical intuitive is, I believe everybody's intuitive. Let's back up for a second, okay? Being intuitive, it's like being on a continuum. You either come into this lifetime where it's really developed or you're developing it. So sometimes it's our ability to know things, and sometimes it's about tapping into frequency and energy and gives you timelines. So you're able to see what's kind of going on or see physically present. I think there's many forms of medical intuitiveness. Okay. It's not just like, in a box and it looks like this. I think sometimes people have sensations that something's off with somebody, or maybe they could look at them and they see a discoloration in their energy field, or sometimes some people are able to shrink themselves in and go into the other person's physical body and figure out what's going on. I mean, it's kind of all over the map. For me,
How do you mean shrink yourself and go inside the person?
It's more of an etheric thing. It's like going in a meditation, bringing yourself into a smaller version of yourself and just walking into the other person and just viewing. And that's how some people do it as well. They tap into the energy field and they're like a outsider looking in the energy field of the holograph of the body and able to determine what's kind of going on. Sometimes you just have a sense that you get a download, spirit source or whatever is giving you information about this person, and you just know by just looking at them or tapping into their energy. For me, it shows up in this way. It's like I'm able to tap into the energy of the person, whether or not what the underlying issue is. It's like, is it regarding emotions? Is it self-talk? Is it beliefs? Is it connectedness or disconnectedness from themselves? those type of things. And sometimes it plays out to like specific events that might have happened in somebody's past that it's influencing their current state. So, and sometimes it's just, I don't even know the person, they're on the table and I just know stuff. So, it's one of those things. And of course, I don't disclose that to, many people. There's some people that know, and, it's a real fine line in the delivery of things, as we talked about, because it's how it's going to be received. And sometimes it's just, knowing something and just kind of saying, well, what are your thoughts about blah 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 blah, you know what I'm saying? So I'm doing it in a way where it's not confrontative, but it's like, what are your thoughts about this? Have you considered, this? Would, or I ask a question, would it possibly be this? You know what I'm saying? Out of my own curiosity. Not that I'm, and I'm just, involving the person in my process a little bit to, possibly gain some information and trust as well. So like I said, it's all in the delivery and the approach. And it's not about blasting somebody saying blah, 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 blah. It's like what? You can't, that's counterproductive, because you really get people on the defense. But like in surgery, sometimes, like, we've had situations where there was a time in my career many years ago that when I started, I want to say, coming out of the closet with this, um, some of the older surgeons, they were like in a conundrum as far as what was going on. And I remember a couple of them came to me and said, what do you think is going on? And I said, blah, 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 blah. And when they got inside the patient, it was exactly that. And they were like, how did she know? I said, I don't know how I knew. I just know.
That's super interesting.
So yeah, I mean, it's just like, I don't know how I know. It's like what we talked about earlier. It's like, you know what you know what you know. And I don't know, I just knew. So, and you have to trust that when that continues to happen time and time again. It's just like, it's almost like being your love language. Do you know what I'm saying? That's how it comes to you. And that's about who you are, and, allowing that and accepting that instead of pushing it away and, ignoring it. Because that's, one of your innate, some people ignore that stuff thinking that it's taboo, or we've gotten really, we've spoken up before and said something and we got blasted and it just shuts us down. And it's really sad when that happens, because knowing what we know now is that this was probably, part of what a person's gift was. And when you do that to people, you just totally shut them down, and people have no idea the impact of people's words and what they say to people have on them. We've all had, our woundings from early on in our life. And a lot of times, you talk about this to people later on in life. It's like, well, you said this to me and it really impacted me. They don't remember that, but in the moment, it's really something to think about. And, I'm going to go on with this for another bit, because I think this is an important thing that people need to know. I think a game changer for me was this. I had traveled quite frequently down to Brazil to study psychic surgery with different practitioners and stuff, and spent a lot of time in Brazil. And I think one of the things,
psychic surgery, you said?
Yeah, psychic surgery.
What does it mean for people that are not aware of that?
Well, psychic surgery it could be the whole gamut. When a person is in trance and they do an operation on somebody, or it could be an etheric surgery, meaning that you're in meditation and the helpful beings and the angels and whatever, the doctors in the in the spirit world come and assist on your etheric body and do operations on your etheric body, which lead into like repairing the physical stuff.
Is this guided through shamans? Is it
It
somebody?
could be through shamans. It's like, that's what I mean. I think a lot of people have the capability of healing themselves, and it's about tapping into that inner wisdom. And it's like your inner physicians come and do the work for you. And sometimes we have to set an intention and so on. So not to, you know, that's like for a whole nother conversation basically, but that's basically what happens. So one of the things that I learned down there is that when we pass away and go to the other side or wherever we go to, we go through a life review. Okay. And I think the showstopper and the game changer for me was we get to review everything we ever experienced or did in our lives, and also how it affected other people. Okay. So to me, that last part was the game changer, because how many times have we been mean to somebody and said something really crass? And you never know what that had, the effect that it had on that person. And we get to witness what they had to experience. It's just like, wow. To me, that was just a wow moment. And I was like, oh my God, I really got to be mindful in how I talk to people, and the tone and intonation that I use, because you don't want to wound anybody, because that's creating karma. It really is.
Mm.
So that's something to think about, and for me moving forward, it was just like, I've really been mindful about that and just kind of reflecting back, because I look at situations in my personal life where people said some really stabbing and cutting words to me, and it really affected me at a soul level. And it's just like, I know those words really wounded me. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because it was just, so the thing is, we get to see those woundings of we've done to other people as well.
Yeah,
So, I mean, that's huge.
yeah, I understand completely, and it's no matter whether you believe in it or not, it's a huge concept to take and to start living your life according to, because you
Absolutely.
will become kinder person, right? Because that's the whole
Absolutely.
point, right? Is the golden rule is like, don't do to the other person that you don't want to be done to you, what you don't want to be
Right.
done to you.
Right.
So that's the golden rule in religion, and this basically means that at the end of your life you're going to experience how you basically affected the other people, whether it's word or
Absolutely.
action. So this,
Absolutely.
let's say, thought experiment, if you start living your life according to that, you will become a kinder person, because who would like to experience bad things, right? Everybody
Exactly.
experience good.
Exactly.
And it's
And
the concept that we were talking about before, that we are a whole thing, that we started compartmentalizing. Humanity
yep,
itself is a whole thing. So when you are hurting another person, you're actually hurting yourself in this context.
very true. Well said. Well said.
So
Yeah.
I wanna, like, as a medical intuitive, I wanna play a little game with you right now.
Okay.
First of all, I wanna ask you: are there common energetic patterns to certain diseases?
That's interesting.
For example, let me ask you in another way. Are there, let's say, a person who is angry, are there specific diseases that they're more prone to? If a person is, let's say, have abandonment issues, are there certain diseases that they are more prone to? So,
well, that's interesting. Yes. Okay. So let's back up a little bit. Let's talk about people having problems speaking up and speaking their truth and stepping into their power. Okay. A lot of times they develop throat and thyroid issues. Okay. Because that's the fourth chakra, the chakra of, verbalizing and speaking up and speaking their truth. But it goes deeper than that, because like I said, it's not like a one direct thing. It could be a matrix of stuff, because if they weren't able to speak up because they just were so deeply wounded and heartbroken, um, there might be issues around the heart too. Okay. They're, a double whammy, where it's just like, they have blockages in their chest. Maybe they're having problems with their physical heart, but also energetically, it's just shut down and closed. That energy center is just very protected, and there's a wall there. So, I mean, it's really difficult to like we were saying before, there's so many shades of gray, and everybody's an individual. I think, a book that was really helpful for people who know Louise Hay. Louise Hay was part of Hay House Publishing. She created that when she was in her 50s. She passed away probably about 6 years ago at the age of 90 something. But she actually healed herself from cancer. But she wrote a book that you could heal yourself, and it was pretty much, I want to say, the precursor to like Body Talk, where certain body parts are part of different beliefs, and if there's a blockage or you're having problems with a particular area, I think that's a real good foundational piece for people. I think it's a great book, and for those people who are just starting to dabble in the curiosity of our body and our body's capability to speak to us, and our capability to heal our body, this is a great place to start. And that book it's a little book, but it's a great reference book and stuff if you're curious about, okay, I've got a headache, what is that all about? And just looking at that. Because I think that, to surmise it and just say, if you have this happening, you're going to get, energetically, I see that. Not necessarily so. I mean, it's just like, it's like, this is where, being a medical intuitive, it's about reading the energy wave of what it is, because it's like a thread in a tapestry of the whole person. It might be just, some bad thread of like a bad belief or something like that, that's kind of threaded through the tapestry. So when we heal and shift that, it goes from being dull to being vibrant and colorful, and it changes the whole shape of the tapestry, right?
Yeah. So this being said, we cannot play the game, because the game was, I will ask you I will tell you certain scenarios, and I would ask you to tell me how they're linked to what energetic pattern, like the scenario.
It's a tough one, because it's going to
Really
be
tough one.
everybody's different. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like it doesn't work that way. For me, it doesn't. For maybe from other people, it might. But there's a component with that sorry.
Perspective that there is a lot of variables involved, that it's not black and white, like you said. It's not.
It's not.
Like, there are many, we are, as you said, each of us is an individual, and each of us has a different story, different variables in. So you cannot generalize like modern science is trying to do, like generalize everyone and put them into one box.
Exactly. This is something completely different. That's more like boxy. This is just like, that's like compartmentalized. This here is matrix. It's like connected in ways you have no idea, and it's just like it's multidimensional in addition to that. So it's not just one dimension, it's multiple dimensions working interactively. It's fascinating, because it's just like you figure out how things are connected, like you have no idea.
I agree. So I'm going to ask you then an interesting question that I
Okay.
will answer. Let's give, for the regular people, for everyday Joe, for everyone who's watching, practical tips, something practical, maybe a technique they can do each day that they will awaken this healer within themselves. Like you say, this like a inner medical doctors that will heal their body.
The best thing I could tell, and the best recommendation, Dejan, and I think you know this too, is to do a mindful activity, go into meditation, slow down your body enough so that you could be in your body, first of all, because that's the most important thing. A lot of people are not in their physical body. You have to be in your physical body, so you could ground the physical with your higher aspect. Okay. When you're in your head, it doesn't work, because there's too much static, if you want to call it, because you're in your head and the messages can't go through. It gets kind of diverted out. Whereas when you are grounded in your physical body,
Sense.
I can't hear you. Go ahead.
It also kind of makes sense. You are healing the body, right? You are not healing the mind. So you need to be in
True. True. Very true. So how do we do that? Do any type of grounding meditation that's going to get you in your body. I offer a free grounding meditation on my website, and actually I'll just write the link in here. Could I write it in the chat?
We will definitely put it in the description below, so you can just tell me after the podcast and I will.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, because this it's a very simple guided meditation, but it allows you to get grounded in your body, because a lot of times people have no idea what it feels like to be in their body. Okay, it's almost like when you're in your body, nothing else matters because you're right here, right now. You're not thinking about yesterday or contemplating tomorrow or trying to figure something out. You're right here, right now. You're connected.
Add on to this, I always say that your body is the only thing of your whole being that is in the present moment. It cannot be anywhere else, even if you want it. Like, try to
Very true. But we distract ourselves from our body. So we're not in the, so we're, we move from here to here. And then it's just like, it's like talking heads. It's like the energy just is like from here up, it's not integrated into the body. So one of the first steps that's important, you have to be in your body in order to access the ability to heal yourself. Okay. That's just the foundational piece. So anything the person can do to spend more time in their physical body, the better. Okay. Because that is going to be the new normal moving forward in the future. Okay. And I'm not saying that the mind's not important. It is. But we focus so much on the intellectual component of being human that we're lopsided. So we need to marry the two together. So learning how to be in your physical body is the utmost importance, because when you're in your physical body, you get to be in the present moment. You get to experience your emotions. When you experience your emotions, you are also connected to your higher self as well. When you're connected to your higher self, this is a game changer for a lot of people. You're getting divine downloads as to what is your next step. Instead of trying to figure something out, it's already there for you. It's being given to you. It's about receiving that and then taking that out into what I call doing or divine doing. So you're doing, whatever, and then you come back. It's a dance. It's like the infinity sign. But instead of starting with doing first, we're starting with being in the body, being in the present moment, where you could get those intuitive downloads that direct you to what is right for you, not anybody else or the masses, but for you, and where you need to go next for your next step. What people don't understand is this: everything you ever wanted is in your energy field. And I know that's a hard concept to grasp. It might be at different vibrations, okay? That's why we don't see it. But when you raise your vibration, and how you do that is spending more time being in your body and being in the present moment, that raises your vibration. And when you do that, you're going to be able to see things that you probably didn't see before that have always been there. And I give it to the analogy, have you ever heard about new crystals that have been found, that they're new and nobody's ever seen them before?
No.
Okay. Oh yeah, this is really, I find this comical, because all of a sudden they'll find a new rock, and it's a new healing rock or whatever. Well, guess what? Those rocks have always been there. They're just vibrating in a different frequency. Now that our humanity's raised their frequency enough, they're matching the vibration of it and they're seeing it.
So interesting.
It's very true.
The same.
Those rocks have been here forever. They just vibrate at different frequencies.
I'm connected with the concept of the RIS, that our mind has the reticular activation system.
Yes.
If I ask you right now, give me, look around you in the room and remember 5 yellow objects. And I tell you to close your eyes.
Mm-hmm.
ask you, okay, how many red objects do you remember without opening your eyes? You will not remember one, because you
Probably
were
not.
yellow objects. But when you open your eyes and now you look at the red objects, because you are looking for the red objects, you can see them. So
Absolutely.
this is probably how, as you say, raising your vibration allows you to see opportunities that were always around you.
Very true. Very true.
Were not, your mind was not primed to see them.
Right. Or it wasn't, the timing wasn't right for you. So there's so many things that come into play with that, but I always just chuckle because when they say, "Oh, we found this new crystal or new rock and it does this," and I'm thinking to myself, well, guess what? It's always been here. It's just that we just haven't seen it because our vibration hasn't been high enough to see it. So it's really, I'm amused because it's just like I figured that out. It was just like that's what's happening because that didn't all of a sudden manifest out of clear air. It's already here. It's just everything is a frequency and a vibration. And it
Yeah,
maybe is in another dimension, because all dimensions there's a lot of dimensions happening at simultaneously. So it's like probably popping in and out of dimensions, but dimensions are changes in frequency too. So as you raise your vibration, you're going to be popping in and out of, dimensions. You're going to be living in probably multiple dimensions at the same time.
yeah, I believe we are all living in multiple. We have, like, just take
Absolutely.
the body, the mind, the spirit, and the heart. They're part of us, but they're
Right.
existing on a different levels, and they're
Absolutely.
Our body is a three-dimensional vehicle. The mind, we can say that is maybe two-dimensional or four-dimensional because it's outside of time. It can go to the past, it can imagine the future. Our heart and emotions, they're also maybe in the fourth dimension. Our spirit can be in the fifth dimension, because when we change our beliefs, then the past suddenly changes and the future. We are completely changing.
Absolutely. And that's the magic of healing right now, because I think a lot of times people don't realize the power involved with healing, working on yourself and healing aspects of you, because it happens in so many dimensions, not just what we could physically see. Energetically, it could heal things up to, from an ancestral point of view. You work on your family stuff, that's probably part of your drama as well, or whatever that is. You work on that, you heal that up. Guess what? It ripples into like up to 7 generations in the past and 7 in the future, because everything's happening simultaneously right now. But also it also heals in other dimensions, but it also heals the past and creates the future.
Are you familiar, and this is just a fun question, are you familiar with the Mandela effect?
I know of it. I know about Mandela's, but tell me more.
The Mandela effect basically is that a lot of people believe that Nelson Mandela died before he died. They were that he died in prison. But as we know, Nelson Mandela got out of prison, and in 2012, I believe he died. But he started a rabbit hole of people remembering things that were not like they remember. For example, they remember that in Star Wars, let's say, the Darth Vader says to Luke, "Luke, I am your father." But in reality, he says, "No, I am your father." And simple, small things like this. Or in the Snow White, the evil queen says, "Mirror, mirror on the wall." We all remember this.
Yeah.
It says something differently, actually. So there are like little, small, but significant changes in our memories that a lot of people, that's why it's called the Mandela effect, they started to believe that we shifted timelines, realities, that reality we came from, it was like this, but we shifted timelines, and that then we are believing that there are certain things, events, small, not very significant, or maybe even very significant, that are changed, that we believe differently, but they're actually from our previous reality, not the one that we are living right now. So
right.
Well, of course, theory, concept, a lot of people believe in it, but it's like, yeah, not for everyone. But I'm curious, like, what do you think about it?
That's interesting. I don't know too much about that. I was thinking Mandela's like the beautiful Mandela, not Nelson Mandela. So, but you know what? I think anything's possible, and I think he was probably onto something with that because maybe
Uh,
you know,
Nelson Mandela wasn't like, it's not his theory. It's just
yeah,
are calling it the Mandela effect because that's how it started. Group of people thought he died, and
yeah,
group of people knew that he didn't die in prison, that he got out of.
yeah. Well, it's like having two different paradigms existing at the same and the same. Yeah, I think that's very possible. Um, and this is like a real simple thing. I think that many of us live in multiple paradigms, and I know for a fact myself, I do. I live by myself, and I will leave something on the counter. I will turn around and it's not there, and then I'll turn around again and it's there. Do you understand what I'm saying? That's as simple as it gets.
So many times it happened to me.
Yeah. So I think many of us live in up to two or three or four different paradigms at the same time. They're very close, or timelines, they're very close, but I can't blame it on the cat. I can't blame it on anybody else because I know I put it there. And then, I turn around and it's not there. And then I turn around again and it's there. So, that's an interesting thing. It's like it's crazy making sometimes because it's like, okay, so I joke about it, I can't find this, or somebody says I can't find this. I said, oh, it's just in another dimension. You'll find it. Oh man, it's crazy.
To the point, and I will try to summarize it. Uh, so we start, first step, come back to our bodies. Why? Because we're trying to heal our bodies. And
Yeah. Yeah. First of all, if you're not in your body, it's not going to happen.
definitely.
Okay.
So you start from your body, you come back to your body, you come back to the present moment, and that's from
Right.
there you work. Second is to ask your guidance from this present moment, from your body, your intuition, and it will guide you towards the steps that you should take individually.
Yep.
For you.
Yeah. And the thing is, it's like sometimes you might hear it, sometimes you might not. Sometimes you might not get an answer right away. It may come, you know, it'll come. It might not be in that exact moment. But also, it's an invitation for people to start journaling too. Ask the question and just allow your body to spontaneously write. I mean, that's, or, just ask yourself, is this something that I need to be doing? And just ask, higher guidance, or just ask them, what are my next steps on my healing journey? And just see what happens. Because the first thing that usually comes is like the right thing. Don't second guess it. Okay. If you get an intuitive hit, we've all had those little hunches that we should be doing something. By all means, follow it. Okay, sweetheart, you gotta stop. You gotta stay over here. Okay. Oh no, 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 no. Gracie wants to come and help. You could sit right here. You could sit right there. That's where you belong. Okay, so that's part of it. Just to be open to receive without judging or criticizing yourself or the information that you're getting or second guessing it.
Okay, so can you give let me give an example, and then maybe you can share.
Yeah.
Somebody is coming to their bodies, they're meditating, grounding themselves in the present moment, they're asking their intuition, and the first thing that pops in their mind is a memory from maybe 3 years ago, where they just went somewhere with their parents and they ordered something to eat, let's say, and I don't know, there was an argument. That's the first image that pops in their mind.
Okay, so the thing is like, go ahead. Is there more?
Does that mean that, for example, there is some maybe some
there might be something with that argument, what kind of taken place, and maybe who knows the outcome of that, if there was like a emotional altercation or whatever, but maybe that's like where they need to look at and start. Sometimes it's not going to make any sense to the logical mind, but it may be, maybe there's something that needs to be healed up in there or revisited to heal.
So how
You
do
know
you,
what I'm saying?
how do you pinpoint this?
How do you pinpoint that? It's just like, I would just, your higher self sometimes gives you pictures, sometimes gives you ideas, scenarios. It's just like, I would just take what that was all about. And if it was an emotionally charged thing that you kind of forgot about, it's just kind of go back and reflect on this, find out what that was all about. Um, was it a stressful time in your life as well? Look at that, address that, because sometimes stress, stress of an argument or whatever happened at that time, we don't deal with it. We just, don't pay it much attention, but it's pretty significant, or we go unconscious with it. And maybe it's time to bring that to consciousness to find out what that was all about.
That's so interesting that you said that, because it can just be your mind trying to remind you with a situation that was stressful to you about current times, and that you're stressed in the current times, and you should heal, you should manage the stress better, so you heal. So
Right, absolutely.
So
So, that or just, whatever that was around there is just looking at the stressor.
and
And if there's, words that need to be said to another party, or forgiveness or whatever, or most importantly, I think a lot of times we just need to forgive ourselves. That gets to look, you get to look at that and do what you need to do to heal that up.
would you say that forgiveness heals like 90% of the diseases?
You know what? I would say I'm going to have to say yes on that, because I think and I feel that we as human beings are very, very hard on ourselves, harder than people realize. Just look at our self-talk, what we say to ourselves in the quiet of our mind. We're always either beating ourselves up or comparing ourselves with somebody else and judging and criticizing ourselves. We wouldn't do that to our best friend, but yet we don't treat ourselves like our best friend, you know? So I feel that it's about forgiving yourself for beating yourself up, because there's a lot of that going on.
That's super interesting. So
Yeah.
that's the second step. Is there a third step, or the third step is just to take action on this?
I would just say take action and just be kind with yourself. I think that's the third step, is just start being kinder to yourself. And remember, these are just the beginning foundational pieces to becoming your own best friend. It's about learning how to have a relationship with yourself. And I say this all the time. It's like the longest relationship you're ever going to have in your life is the one you have with yourself. But people are constantly not treating themselves nicely. They beat themselves up every corner that they get. And sometimes you're just, like I said, kinder to a stranger than you are to yourself. You hold yourself to such a high level that you can't even you know attain that perfectionism. So it's like a continuous battle of just beating yourself down and up. We do this to ourselves. Nobody else does this for us.
Okay, Dolores, I loved what we talked about. Thank you for being part of this podcast. Where can people find you?
I have a TV, radio, and podcast with Inspired Choices Network. And every Wednesday at 12 noon Pacific Standard Time, I go live and we talk about various different topics, anywhere from spirituality to healing to emotional boundaries, anything that you could imagine that would help you become a better human being and just have a better relationship with yourself. Also, I have a guided meditation, as we were talking about being in the present moment. It's called a guided meditation to being in the present moment. As simple as that. And you could go to my website to get that. It's Dr. Dolores Fazzino.com/free-video.
We will
And
description, and like people will get easier like this. So
yeah.
the free meditation is going to be on the description.
Yeah, no, it's just like I think, and it's a very simple grounding meditation that actually grounds you in multiple dimensions, but it gives you a taste of what it's like to be in your physical body. And for some people, that may be a new thing. So, but that's what I have.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Dolores. Again, I'm super excited for the summit in November. Everything we talked about today is just a glimpse of your real superpower that's within your body pillar. So all of this is just a tiny glimpse. And at the day of the body, we will talk about different topics that will give you different pieces of the puzzle so you can better understand the superpower of your body so you can embrace it and harness it. Thank you so much, Dolores, again. It was a pleasure, and see you in the next episode.